These are my psychic predictions for October 2020 and beyond. Well, hi again and welcome to the channel, and I'm going to do some more predictions today. I'm doing them as much as I can monthly now. You obviously get my predictions at the beginning of the year, so I'm picking up on some of your questions that you put in the comments. So don't forget to put your questions in the comments so that I can I'll try to pick up as many as I can. Most of them have come this time from the patrons on the site. So those that are patrons, thank you. I've obviously give you first priority on some of the questions you asked, but some of the things you've asked are very similar to what others have asked in the main sites. So the first question, someone said, you say Trump will win the US election, but what will happen with the Senate and the House of Representatives? Now, I'm not American, I'm British, but my feeling is that the House of Trump's going to win. I've said that all along. I feel that the House of Representatives, it will be a scrape-in for the House of Representatives. I think he will gain dominance there and in the Senate too, which of course is going to give him a lot more power, and I'm going to talk about that as we go along. So definitely yes to the Senate, slim majority in the House of Representatives. That's what I'm saying. Nancy Pelosi, she is. I think she's going to be. She won't make an actual bid to impeach Trump again, but the action that she's trying or even talking about it, I think is going to be her downfall actually, because I feel she's going to be ousted from her position within the next 6 months. So that's probably after the election, but I feel she's going to be ousted from her position. I said before also that Biden would have some health problems close to the election. This does kind of seem to be reported quite a lot now. It seems to have been an awful lot of talk since I first brought this up nearly a year ago. But I feel that is still going to have quite a lot of effect at the time of the election, which is not far away now. However, you know, people have also been talking about, will this election be contested? I think it will be contested after the election, not by Trump, but by the Democrats. Now, obviously, during these times of the pandemic and so forth, everybody is very worried about their jobs and money and the economy and where things are going. So one of the questions that came up here, which I kind of covers a number of things, someone said, what will happen with the economy as the US election looms? So they're kind of thinking about now, really. And I want to answer that first of all because now I'm not a financier or I don't know anything about it, you know, I'm just a psychic, so, you know, get the right advice for these things. But my feeling is that the dollar, although it's going to be very volatile, will remain strong. I'm going to say some things later on about cryptocurrencies and things like that later on, but I feel it's going to remain strong despite the kind of volatility in the market. Now, I mentioned last month and a few months before, I think it was, about tech stocks that I feel they're overvalued, and I think they will drop soon. And after the election, when we have Trump in power, I know a lot of you won't like to hear that, but after the election, Trump is going to go quite hard on the social media platforms. It's like I feel he's going to get revenge on Twitter and on Facebook and even on YouTube. There's going to be a lot more of the fact that they're going to make social platforms take more responsibility and become more like newspapers and publishing houses, and actually have to not just rely entirely on uncensored user content. So there's going to be a lot happening with that, and that will probably be later on. We're talking about the election. Maybe it'll be something he'll bring in reasonably soon. Now, on financial things, I feel that there's going to be a huge corruption expose soon, and it's going to be mainly among the banks. There's something coming up that I feel there's going to be some information released very soon, just before the election, possibly just after, but I think it's all in the mix. There's going to be all sorts going round, like I mentioned last time about upsets in world events as well at the time of the election. But I'm seeing corruption in banks such as HSBC, Chase Bank, Deutsche Bank. I feel those three are going to be implicated in something pretty big. And as I mentioned before, there's going to be something where there's public figures involved with this too. And in particular, for some reason, I got images of the Spanish royal family. I know that's something odd. The last thing you'd think to come across your mind. So this is why I felt there was something connected with the Spanish royal family. Perhaps there's going to be implications of allegations of corruption and money laundering on their behalf. And similarly, I think in talking about that, also I think in Spain there's going to be some more calls for in Catalan for independence in Catalan. There's going to be lots and lots of social unrest, as I'm going to tell you about in a moment. But there's lots ahead, and I see Spain as being one of the trigger points for this. And also, all this business that's going to happen with this corruption exposure is going to raise big debates and questions about the idea of Fed coin. You know, this is like the idea of an international cryptocurrency sort of thing that is going to be sort of run by the government with lots of potentially dangerous implications, lots of easy things for tax returns, but some very dangerous stuff there. I think this is all going to be in the news soon, and also some moves later on. This is once all the elections over, really. I think moves against cryptocurrencies, where regulation and means of trying to find ways to regulate cryptocurrencies, an international move perhaps. So that's some of the things on the financial front. Okay, now another question that's been raised a lot, and here it is. This is how it was actually worded on the site. It says this. Someone asked, at the outbreak of the coronavirus at the start of 2020, you predicted that it would be followed by social unrest. Will we see the end of protests like Black Lives Matter soon? Okay, so that's a big thing, and that was something that I said about. And also it was in the Nadi oracles, you remember, when we asked it about the coronavirus. I'll come to something about that again in a moment. But so you remember I spoke a lot about gun violence. And if you remember my 2019 predictions, it was at the beginning of the year, you will remember I talked about America divided. And I talked about a war between East and West, which in a way has kind of happened because California is very left-wingish, sort of liberalist type of view. New York and Texas have become much more extreme on their Republican views. And I talked about this division, and I talked about violence on the street and gunfights on the street. And unfortunately, that is something that's kind of come up this week. But I see more of it. I see more of that. So again, I repeat the warnings that I gave last time about that. There will be gun violence on a scale that America's never seen before. There's going to be a lot of questions about whether people should be carrying automatic weapons and on the rest of it. It's going to be pretty dangerous. I even predicted before that there might be an external force brought in, such as being called upon by the army can't completely cope with it. So I feel there's going to be a lot of that. How far that goes, I don't know. Remember, I am fallible. Hopefully I'm only seeing part of this, but I do feel there's going to be unrest on scale worldwide that we haven't seen the likes of ever before. And this is over the next 6 months. It's not just this month or more, but it's going to be the problems ahead for the world, internal strife. Now, I also spoke about food shortages, and some people were asking about that as well, what I meant by that. And we've already started to see a bit of a hint with that. I mean, I particularly saw the people of Yemen on the television recently, and the terrible things going on there. Perhaps if you get inspired by my videos, do something. Perhaps give some money to Yemen if you can. I mean, there's some terrible things going on with people beginning to starve, and I feel there's going to be a lot more of that with more. It's going to hit the third world countries, basically. I've made in my notes here, I'm saying that I feel that South America is going to be affected, Africa, island countries, and even India. I feel there's going to be food shortages there, and I feel even in India there's going to be riots as well. All these third world countries are going to see tremendous social unrest, just like what's happening in America, but it's going to be for different reasons, and a lot of it's going to be due to the fact that people are getting hungry. For now, Hong Kong I feel is suppressed, and I feel it will remain that way for a little while. Basically, the virus has done its trick, hasn't it, there? You know, I am very much of the belief, and this is more than the belief because I feel it's come through my intuition for this, and it was hinted at in the Nadis, that this virus was man-made. And I was saying that right from the start, and there seems to be some, evidence coming out now to say that it is man-made, and we actually gave a date. I can't remember the exact date I said now, but we gave a date. The Nadis actually gave a date when it would be revealed, which is quite a way ahead, actually. But we'll get absolute positive proof of this eventually. So it was released perhaps accidentally, I feel, but I believe we're at a war with China and don't know it. But I'll talk about that in a moment. And there will be more uprisings. I'm on the theme of the uprisings, which is in that question there. And I feel also, remember, I also predicted that there would be uprisings in Mongolia. I said this in my China predictions 3-4 years ago, maybe more. It was quite a while ago. But I saw Mongolia, and that at the time struck me as something very odd that Mongolia should come up. And now there's talk about unrest in Mongolia in China. So there's going to be flashpoints in China for the Chinese revolution that I've been predicting. But that is not quite with us yet. At the moment, we're going to see smaller things, as it were, but still very terrible things. And we've got a lot of it on our own doorstep. Also, I feel it here in Europe too, particularly Eastern Europe. I think Britain's going to be comparatively spared from this type of stuff. But I mentioned last time that time before last, a couple of 2 or 3 months ago it might have been now, I said about Eastern Europe, and I saw places like Hungary and Poland and so forth. And then, of course, what happens is we get Belarus in turmoil. But I feel it's going to be much more than just Belarus. If I pronounce it, Belarus, isn't it? Belarus. Much more than Belarus as a problem. And I see possible Russia interfering in there big time during the election months in America. They're going to take advantage of America's, where it's got its eye off the ball for a while. But I feel there's going to be riots over the enforced quotas that are going to be put upon some of the Eastern European countries that don't want to take in the immigrants that are pouring in from the belly of Europe, as it were, up through Greece and Italy and so forth. Something that I feel that Nostradamus may have even talked about in the past and suggested something like that. And also, just while I'm on that area too, actually coming under the belly of Europe, I feel there's going to be, I think I mentioned this before, but there's going to be some conflicts between Egypt and Turkey and Greece, as if there's something, but the whole three of them get involved. I know there's strong dislikes between Turkey and Egypt, and Turkey and Greece, but there could be something where I feel something might happen with Egypt as well. But that's a little bit further ahead. That's not in the coming month, but that's something to keep in mind for the longer term future. It came to me in my meditations when I was doing these things. You see, it's ever so hard for us to be able to pin down these things timeline wise, because what we're talking about when we get pictures of the future is the potentials for the future, and things unfold at the time that they're meant to unfold karmically, as opposed to unfold in our timeline. And depending what we do and our attitudes to these things and the goodness that we can project into the world, the things that come to us come according to how we are reacting to it. So every time we have a good positive thought, we help the world become a better place. But more of that perhaps in a minute. So I've also said about I made a lot of predictions about this worldwide unrest, and we are starting to see it. And don't forget, we've also got major problems already happening in Thailand. And I think something big's going to happen there too. I get this sense that the royal families of the world have a few problems. And I'll also come to Harry and Meghan in a moment. But that's to answer that first question about the will we see the end of the protests like Black Lives Matter soon? No. There's more to come, and I'm afraid it's on a scale that is unprecedented, and it's worldwide. Now, this next question, of course, was asked by some of the patrons on the site and also in the comments on the other videos. But I think it's on everybody's lips, isn't it? When will the pandemic end? Right. The Nadi made some predictions about this, and I take a lot of I take them very seriously. It was predicted that there would be a second wave in September, and here we are, end of September, making this video, coming into October. Well, everybody's talking, certainly in Europe, of a second wave. I think there's going to be, we've got a sort of a kind of a lockdown at the moment, but I think there's going to be a bit more of a full lockdown. Now, as I said in my earlier videos, if you look back to them, I said the lockdown wouldn't be nationwide second time on the second wave. I said it would be places like Manchester, Birmingham, Glasgow and London, and all those places have been put on much stronger lockdowns, and I think we're going to see a London lockdown soon, a bit more of a serious London lockdown, not just telling people to drink their drinks up by 10 o'clock, but much more serious with much more restrictions put in, and that is ahead. It doesn't take a psychic to tell you that, really, but I was saying this a long time ago of how the second wave would be done regionally. The Nadi also said that southern India would be less affected than northern India, and actually when I look at that prediction I don't think that's quite right, because I think southern India has been affected worse, so it appears to be wrong there. So maybe there's more to be ahead in northern India perhaps, but we'll see what happens with that one. So that wasn't my prediction there, that was a Nadi prediction. And I think we will kind of be, I think we've broken the back of the virus in the end by probably, it's almost exactly a year of the virus. So spring next year, we'll have broken the back of it. I think we'll get a vaccine in the new year, and they're talking about that already. And I think my feeling is these vaccines will be successful. And I know there's a lot of people out there who watch this type of video that are anti-vaccine, but I don't think it's the vaccines the problem. It's the virus itself was released to cause us damage. I think we'll get a tighter lockdown soon here in the UK, possibly in Europe as well, but I think we'll have it released a bit before Christmas, so there'll be some good cheer just before Christmas, because we've cracked a lot of the problems and people can rescue the stores, I suppose, with the Christmas rush. So, like I say, I do feel the virus in China was manufactured. I don't think it was necessarily released deliberately at this time. I think they accidentally released a manufactured virus. That's the way I feel it went. So we are dealing with something that has to have a new forms of ways of tackling it, because it's man-made, So, but I think we'll get through it. I think we'll sort it. The virus, as I said in some of my other videos, was designed, I feel, to hook other viruses onto. So you could hook, and I particularly felt HIV and things like that would have been hooked onto it to cause mayhem by. It's a delivery virus, and even though it's dangerous in itself and killer in itself, it's also a delivery virus, so they could target different ethnic groups with it, for example, or different types of people, and that's how it was being developed, not that it got that far. So the other thing, we're talking about the pandemic, so there's a few things about the pandemic, but Prince Charles recently has been saying, he said actually, didn't he, something to the effect that the environmental problems we're going to see ahead will eclipse the pandemic. And I'm 100% behind him with that thought, because I have been seeing so many things in my pictures in my head of the way it's going to go with the environment. I think a lot of stuff has been, like, for example, I believe that we are in a secret war with China. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. I think a lot of the fires in California were lit deliberately. It was that there are teams of people there that will, from political intervention from other countries, maybe stirring it up in places like anywhere where there's democracy, including Australia. And I feel, deliberate fire lighting has been going on there. And these are not accidental fires. It's all over the place, So, and I think there's problems. I think there's going to be other environmental problems, natural environmental problems caused by global warming, that are going to cause us major problems. So I'm seeing a lot of earthquakes and seismic activity ahead, and I think soon, I think soon there's going to be something with some seismic activity that is quite unexpected, possibly in Europe, where there's going to be something going on in a most unexpected way. So it's kind of unexpected even to me. Okay, so the next question that was asked is, will things settle down after the US election? Now, I like to be positive if I can, sorry, but I don't think it's going to settle down after the US election. I think it's going to be pretty bad. In fact, one of the patrons on the site asked, will there be civil war in the US? And, because I can see how you're all thinking, will things get worse, and I think whoever wins the election, maybe I'm wrong with my predictions about Trump, because I'm fallible. I tend to get quite a lot right if you follow me and you check my results, but I am fallible, remember. But I think whoever wins, I think we're going to see conflicts in America still ahead. It will eventually get sorted. But for the short term, particularly over the next 6 months or more, I feel endless conflicts, because it's like, it's being stirred up by people from outside. This is the problem. So I think America is at war, and it doesn't realise it's at war. It's been at war for a long time. If you think about how modern day wars are fought now, it's not fought with nuclear bombs, it's fought secretly, and there's a lot you can do. Now we have the internet, and there's a lot you can do if we have environmental problems, and we can point the blame and things like that. So I think this pandemic was caused by China, and albeit an accidental release from a lab. But why was that lab designing virus weapons in the first place? So that would be the sort of questions that I think are going to come up, and we're going to see a lot more conflict with China in the ways ahead. It's for other videos this, but I've also mentioned it in the past. So when you think about it, US data has been attacked for a long time. People have been trying to break into NASA, break into the every single possible corporate secret we can get in order to use it as a way to push their own countries forward. And again, I feel China's behind that. So there's been a gradual undermining of power in the USA. There's been a gradual undermining in Europe, in Australia too, had the same problems. There are forces at work that are undermining democracy. There are forces at work that are trying to bring down President Trump too, because he's the only one that I think's had the courage to look at it, whatever you might think of him as a person. And there's loads of question marks over him, of course, but there's people trying to stop him because he is stirring it up too much. The act of stirring it up brings the secrets to the surface. Also, Russia is complicit in this as well. Russia and China, as I predicted a long time ago, would join together to fight against USA, and this is how they do it. And also, what else have we got here? So there's a plot to overthrow the Trump administration. I think this will be revealed after the election, and it will be actually proper news. And I think this will be revealed by proper news sources, such as the Washington Post and places like people like that, who might not normally be into this type of idea. And also at the moment, we also have the controversy surrounding the appointment, the replacement of Ruth Bader, isn't it? Bader Ginsburg. I think this is also going to throw up new things about endemic corruption within Washington. And I think we're going to see some new stuff about that in the coming months, at the time of the election and just after. The actual controversy around the appointing of the new person in itself is exposing vulnerabilities, it's exposing new things. It's going to be used as a catalyst for more things. It's being deliberately used by Trump, actually. It's his way of creating controversy, creating instability. Instability actually helps him with his election plans, because he's the law and order message he puts forward. I mean, I'm not trying to tell anyone to vote any way. Please vote with what you believe and what your heart tells you, because I am fallible. I'm not saying that these things have to be, because these things are in the karmically determined. But the Nadi seemed to suggest that Trump would get a second term. I still hold by that myself, but we'll see. I might be wrong. Now the next question which actually is almost ironic and funny, really, because it's almost lower down my list of questions to answer. Is will there be a hard Brexit? Okay, this was dominating us so much for so long, and it's almost laughable now. Now, you remember my original predictions. I always said there will be a hard Brexit. I said it right from the start. In actual fact, the original thing I said there would be a hard Brexit with a deal done at the absolute last moments. I said it would be a hard deal all the way, and then something done finally at the end. Now, what I beginning to understand what I meant by that now, because I don't see it all. I get bits of it and feelings of it. But what I think we're going to get is fundamentally a hard Brexit that is going to be like on world trade terms for most stuff. But one or two areas will be kind of sorted out because they have to be. Finance, I think, will be sorted out because they have to be. Things like that, medical supplies, because they have to be. There'll be certain things put in that nobody likes on either side, but it's basically going to be a hard Brexit. They're going to take it absolute to the wire, and the only thing we're going to get are last minute things. One of the patrons asked, and this is kind of off a bit of a tangent with it, will Norway be in alliance with the UK, was one of the questions they asked. And this is kind of, although that's a smaller question, yes, I think they will. I think that we're going to get much more trading between Norway and the UK, and more stronger links between places like Norway with the UK and then America, because I get trades deals being worked out between multiple states, not just the trade deal between Britain and America later on. So I think there will be things like that happening, and this will be sort of the way that Europe will gradually start to break up. Because trade, it was meant to be a common market. It's not really a common market. It's not in anyone's interest. It's not common interest for anybody. People have taken in power and destroyed it, in my opinion. But I feel that there will be a breakup of the EU gradually. But things like deals done like that with Norway and things like that are going to be its downfall. And someone also asked, will the withdrawal agreement be ripped up? And I think it will. I think it will be ripped up. It's going to be a big bargaining chip, but I think it's going to be ripped up in that it's going to be radically changed to the point that it's something different, right? And both sides will say they've got a victory on this, because some will say yes, it was ripped up. We pushed them to the end, and the other one said, well, Europe will say as well, all we did was agree to a certain change in things. So it will be very, very different. But again, like I said, after Brexit, I feel there's going to be an improvement in the UK economy. And I also, you remember, in my predictions early on the Brexit stuff, said at the time of Brexit, I said there would be a massive increase in the value of houses. I didn't quite envision it with the idea of the virus in mind at the time, because that was a long time ago, but it has certainly happened. House prices here in the UK certainly have leapt over the last months. And finally, probably a bit more quirky sort of one, but still very interesting, I think, and probably very important ultimately. Someone said this. This is how they worded it. They said, "You said in your 2020 predictions that the atmosphere of Jupiter would reveal a strange phenomena. This week, a gas was found in the atmosphere of Venus that implies life. Could you have been seeing things slightly wrong?" And as I say, this is like through a glass darkly. Proper psychics, and there's plenty out there other than just myself, obviously. But we kind of see it through a glass darkly. We don't see it all. We get a certain amount of clarity, and sometimes things we say make sense as events unfold. And maybe it was Venus I was seeing there, because there was an implication in what I said, that there was an implication that life could be involved in this. So maybe also we'll find signs of life in the atmospheres of Jupiter, perhaps to come. But certainly they found the suggestion in Venus, which is interesting. And that life being probably, microbe type of life forces out there. And I think we're going to find that life ultimately is plentiful everywhere. The universe has been designed for life, And it's here for life to evolve. It's not, I believe, like the scientists say, it's all a dark, world and it's just mathematical. I believe there's a life force behind everything, and that we will ultimately find life all over the solar system and beyond. And I feel that we have been visited in the past. Here we go into crackpot world, guys. But no, I do believe we've been visited in the past. And mankind, like in 2001 and things like that, was helped along in the film, helped along in our evolution, and we were given a boost. And I'm going to talk later on, coming up with Jane soon. We're going to have a talk about the upcoming golden age. Now, when we're going through terrible things at the moment in the world, and people think we're at the absolute limits of what the world can stand, and there's more to come, as I suggest. But all of this is ultimately leading to a better time, to what I call a golden age, in which other seers have said this in the past. So Jane and I will be looking at that later. That golden age may last for a short period of time and then come back again and another time, but I can talk about all those things later. But maybe also they talk in some of the things like the Puranas, for example, in India, talk about the gods coming back to the earth. Now, could those gods coming back to the earth actually be higher beings of some sort? Maybe we will get, once we've got through all this, I don't think they're going to come and change everything for us, perhaps, but I think once we get through all this, a new age will come, perhaps in our lifetime, but I think a new age will come and we will reconnect with the beings from other planets. Okay, so now I do sound like the typical psychic on YouTube. So apologies for that. Don't unsubscribe. Please subscribe. Because, we are not alone in this universe. And we are spiritually connected as well. So hopefully we are going to enter into some better times, and we shouldn't worry so much all the time with all these short-term things that are happening in the world, which are pushing us to become spiritual beings, isn't it? It's all pushing us to become spiritual beings. And I think as our consciousness raises and we become more awake, as consciousness evolves, because that's what's happening, consciousness evolves. Once consciousness begins to evolve in us collectively, then I think we'll start to connect with the rest of the universe that is also evolving consciousness. Okay, thanks for joining me. See you next time. I want to connect a surname around this, and there's two that are being shown to me, and I don't know whether I got one right and one wrong, but I get Jenkins being given to me, and I also hear the name Evans, as if these two somehow are connected. Now, I don't know if a Jenkins and an Evans came together as a maiden name plus to become the surname, but there's something about those two names, and I'm a little bit puzzled with this, actually, so I'm going to have to sort of see if I can find my link first of all. You lot don't volunteer very easily, do you? You give me a hard time, you wait until I actually find you, until I come over there, poke you on the shoulder and say it's with you. Now, can anybody connect this so far? Because they're quite unusual names, and I feel right with the county. There's a strong link with this countryside link with this.
Are you sure it's Somerset? Because I can take everything else, but not Somerset.
Well, maybe. Well, let's see. Let's see if I can get some more information. You would understand the Jenkins and the Evans.
Both school friends, and the place where I was born was Kimberley.
Kimberley. Well, that sounds right to me, doesn't it? It sounds like I've probably got the Somerset bit wrong, so I'll slap my lips for that. That's because I was talking about, civilised areas, not obviously isn't. So, I'll never come here again, will I? Let me see. So we're going back to school friends here, and we're going back to your school memories here, but you would connect those things and understand those as strong connections with the school memories.
Yes, and I used to live at the side of a farm.
Okay, all right. Now, going back to school days, I want to come to a bit of a sad link, because I feel as if I'm talking about a younger person here that took their own life.
There was one, yes.
Yeah, and this would have been at your school, because it would still be, I could still hear the school bell ringing, as if we're close to it, or we've only just left, or we've not been... We're not growing as a full adulthood by any means.
Yeah,
it's a young person.
That's right.
Right. This caused in you a lot of fear at the time, because you tasted bereavement very early in your life in that respect, because it was close to home, as it were. Mm-hmm. Right.
So I think I've hung myself.
That's right.
Because I've like that.
Yeah.
And the parents, of course, boom, nobody expected this to happen, did they?
No, he was a very bright child.
Yeah. But probably overbright in a lot of respects, you know, because I can feel that... well, you've said to me very bright child, but I feel he would have grown into like you would have expected him to grow into something like a professor or something like that. Because he was. Right. They used to take poke him in the ribs about it,
unfortunately.
Didn't they? I nearly said something else, but they used to take the Michael. And names. He's given me names here. It's not Michael, is it? But it's something like that. Is it Michael or Peter or Michael?
Michael.
His name's Michael. That's why they take the Michael. That's why it's amazing how they do the little things, isn't it? So his name's Michael.
That's right.
And there's not a lot he can do now because you're out of touch with his parents and things like that.
They still live on the estate where a lot of my family live.
Okay, because if there was any slim chance, and maybe if this is on the television, it might even reach out to them. If there's any slim chance that he's to let them know that he's all right, from that information, I feel it would get across,
okay.
And maybe somebody being helped. The ways of the Spirit are amazing, how they reach out to people.
Okay.
They're telling me that you've been doing a lot of good work now. You've been in two minds because you've got mediumistic powers yourself, but also healing powers yourself. And have been kind of a little bit split about which way to develop.
Correct.
But you do like the idea of therapy.
Correct.
And I feel that the healing side is a side that is of interest to you.
I'm thinking of being a counsellor, yeah.
Right. And this is going to be, you're saying about counselling, this is going to be ordinary, everyday counselling, as it were, but you're going to use your healing powers discreetly without people even knowing that there's healing power coming from you. I'm getting something also about France.
I've just been.
You've just been? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm also hearing something about, like, I heard the word, like, baton, which is, I can't speak French, but I mean, some baton, does that mean that you find that funny? I saw a red ball.
We used to have major rats from Kimberley that wore red that twisted the baton.
Oh, right, so they got the baton. And did they all go to France or something?
It's a long time ago, I don't know.
All right, because there was also I don't know if there was some connection when you went to France that links these two things together. Was one of your friends or something connected with your school times that would also remember this link that I had from the Spirit about the hanging?
Probably because my fiancé went to school with me and we were in the same
So you were together in the same school, because that's what I want to get, the connection with the school. Because what I want to say is lots of happiness there with that fiancé.
Thank you.
That's what the person in the Spirit, I feel, is trying to do their little bit to help you as well. Because you shed many tears for them when the time came, and he's shedding tears of happiness for you. That's Michael
nice,
on the Spirit side that's giving you that. Okay?
That's nice.
So pass that, tell your husband to be that.
I will be, thank you.
That'll give you a little bit more leverage, you see, you can use it. Okay. I want to do another link now. Now, another name's been given to me now, and I want to hear the name Bassett. And I'm connecting with this the name Michael, so I'm on a male link, even though I think someone's thinking of female link here.